Our next speaker is Alvarez, and I just had the opportunity to meet her today, but I was introduced to her through some of the very charismatic videos that have been on the website, bwcentral.org website. And she's a lawyer, and many of you know her from those videos, and she has a very passionate voice about Common Core especially, other things as well, but Common Core especially. Just a quick announcement. I know that the handout that Frank had given, there were some pages missing, but that was from our website as well, so you can go to the website and pick up that article and read it, the whole thing in its entirety there. Anyways, thank you for your attention, everybody. We will have questions at the end. We'll have kind of like a panel question and answer time. So please, if you have some questions, we'll wait for the end. But I just want to introduce Ice and invite her to speak. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate the fact that you're concerned citizens. We should have more concerned citizens. I hope I don't end up tripping over this court. Now, I'm going to speak about two broad issues. One, the legalities or constitutional issues, and then I'm going to also, I've been asked to speak as to the actual standards that are going to be implemented under the guise of these Common Core state standards. But I'm going to, first I'm going to fill in the gaps in Frank's presentation. He focused on the data mining issue, so I'm going to fill in the legal aspect of the data mining. We have a Fourth Amendment in this country, and the Fourth Amendment guarantees our privacy rights. And because of that Fourth Amendment, there is a federal statute, otherwise known as the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which is FERPA. And obviously, it should be obvious to us anyway, Congress enacted that statute. Unfortunately, under the Obama administration, that statute was gutted and modified to have the Common Core state standards fit within the parameters of the law. Now, that's kind of like an oxymoron because, first of all, you can't create an organization or a department such as the Federal Department of Education and have them unilaterally modify a federal law. It would be up to Congress to revisit that statute and make any and all modifications. And of course, even when Congress would visit that statute, they would have to make sure that that law, thank you for turning off the AC, that that law fits within the parameters of our Constitution. And so what we've done to provide for all of this data mining, I know at this point it's probably superfluous, but it's illegal. And so I just wanted to highlight that and bring in the legal aspect. There are some senators who have addressed the issue, and they have written a letter asking the Obama administration to recheck what they're doing because it's clearly illegal. But of course, as many things in this current administration, they're being dismissed or just ignored completely. There are over 24 lawsuits that have been filed by an organization called EPIC, again relating to this violation of FERPA, because they are violating student and parental rights. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Now, the other thing which he asked me to address are the standards and how this is actually going to affect the classroom. So I'm going to address that next. Now, these standards, we need to understand, and this is a point that I made at a public hearing. If we would recognize, and further besides just recognizing, but actually say, you know what, these standards are unconstitutional. And I'm going to really focus on that on the last part of this presentation. But if we focus on the fact that this is in fact unconstitutional, this conversation wouldn't even be happening. We shouldn't even really even be having this dialogue and debating the standards. And I like to highlight on the onset of a conversation on this about the standards that they are, illegal. I mean, it's just, we really shouldn't be discussing whether or not these standards are appropriate or inappropriate or good or bad. But having said that, because the media wants to focus this dialogue on the standards, let's go ahead and talk about the standards so that we can have the knowledge that we need to be able to answer back when they tell us that these standards are fantastic. Now, first of all, from a psychological standpoint, psychologists do say that they are developmentally inappropriate, and they are. For instance, I have a clip, and if you want to, at the end of this presentation, I'll give you my email. I'll send you my YouTube video, my PowerPoint slide, and the reason why I offer the PowerPoint is because embedded in that PowerPoint, I have a lot of YouTube clips that speak to the things that I'm going to be talking about. So for example, there's this one YouTube clip where a man, a concerned parent, is analyzing a first grade textbook called Voices, I believe is the name of this English language standards book. And they are teaching these first graders what they call emotionally charged words. And it's all in the context of why these corporations are bad and that maybe they should be vocal against big business and things like this. And so you have to ask yourself, is this how I'm going to teach little Johnny how to read? To be a protester and show this child all of these emotionally charged words so that then they can go home and object to things that maybe their parents are doing? Again, it's not, according to psychologists, this is not the way that you would teach first graders how to read, and this is not appropriate vocabulary for first graders. Now, these standards are also unpiloted and untested, and so we really, it begs the question, why are we going to spend on a national level $16 billion to implement standards and everything that flows therefrom, meaning the assessments, the textbooks, everything else, on something that has been untested? It just doesn't make any sense. Now, there is an organization called the Thomas B. Fordham Institute, and they are supposedly neutral, but they're usually cited by the proponents of the Common Core state standards as, oh, look at all the wonderful things that they have to say about the Common Core state standards. So they're really used by them. So people such as myself who are opponents of the Common Core state standards like to also cite to them and say, hey, listen, this is what the proponents are telling you. That the Thomas B. Fordham Institute says as their sell of, oh, these Common Core state standards are the best. Well, not necessarily. This institute, the Fordham Institute, took all of the standards, the current standards in the 50 states, and they analyzed them, compared and contrasted them next to the Common Core state standards. And well, I'm not going to focus on all the other states, but we're going to talk about the ones here in Florida. Currently, the ones that are the Sunshine State standards here in the state of Florida, they were given a B. They graded them. They were given a B. The Common Core state standards were given a B+. So you're probably there to say, oh, well, that's an improvement. We went from a B to a B+. But they graded the math as follows. The current standards got an A, and the Common Core state standards got an A-. So we're getting a plus over here, but we're getting a minus over here. So in the end, we pretty much have a wash, right? So again, I would ask, why are we going to spend, in the state of Florida, they estimate conservatively, $1 billion to implement the Common Core state standards when in effect, they're neither better nor worse. We're pretty much, according to the Fordham Institute, which the proponents again say is the voice on grading the standards and comparing them, they're not really saying that we're going to be making an improvement here. At least not enough to justify $1 billion of an investment. So that's the general premise. Now, Then we have, and I can also email you this, and of course if you, you would have to email me and tell me, please send me this, please send me the other thing. So whatever it is that you hear me talk about, if you want the primary document, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. There were two experts who sat on the validation committee. One of them, Sandra Stotsky, she spoke as to the English language standards, and then you have Dr. Milgram, who spoke as to the mathematics standards. These two experts who sat on the validation committee refused to sign off on these standards because they, and I'll tell you the details now, but in general, they basically said that this was going to be the dumbing down of America. And they did not want to be responsible for that. I had the pleasure of meeting Sandra Stotsky recently at the public hearings, and I also have her document, which she did for us, meaning you, I, and the state of Florida, where she analyzed a portion of the standards, and in her professional opinion, as an expert in the standards, she stated why they were deficient. She asked me to spread that document as far and as wide as I possibly could, and of course I've sent it to everybody in my email list. If you want that document, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. It's a great tool, a great weapon. I also have, not Dr. Milgram, but I also have Dr. Warman, who is also an expert in standards, but he did an assessment, in his opinion, as an expert on the mathematical standards, and he presented his document to the Department of Education, Pam Stewart here in the state of Florida. So I can send you those two, and if anybody says, well, why are these standards deficient? Well, hey, look, this is what the standards, what the experts say. Now, let's analyze the English standards a little bit. First of all, we don't really teach grammar in school anymore. When I was in school, we still had grammar books. Just grammar books. And then we had our literature book. And I hated doing this, I have to tell you. But I am an excellent writer today, so I would have to attribute that, there are many factors like my parents who helped me and taught me. But I also had to learn how to dissect a sentence, the predicate, an indirect object. All that, couldn't stand doing that. But there's a reason why they put us through that kind of pain, okay? It's a necessary, evil to become a good writer. And so we don't teach grammar anymore. And this isn't, I'm not going to attribute that to the Common Core. It's already been happening for a while, just like they haven't been teaching cursive. But now the problem is going to be augmented. They're going to teach that even less. And further, they just keep moving us further and further away from what I like to call a classical form of education. Now, to boot, they are going to be taking away our literature, and they are replacing literature with informational text. And just to give you a little idea here, 4th grade, before they just had 100% literature, meaning stories, neutral stories with no political slant, just literature, okay? Now it's going to be a mix of 50-50, 50% literature, 50% informational text. In 8th grade, 45% literature, 55% informational text. And then when they get to 12th grade, they're going to take out 70% of the literature and replace that with informational text. When I was a senior in high school, all I did my senior year was American literature. One novel after the other. The Great Gatsby, The Grapes of Wrath, whatever. It was one novel after the other. I don't know how many novels I read that year.